I hope you're doing well. Pardon the technical troubles getting the show started this morning. Good morning from Minnesota, Lightning Ven says. Hammersaw, good morning. Yeah, don't know why, but the browser that I use froze just as I went live, so I couldn't use the mouse to go live. So I had to restart my computer. Then, when I restarted it, the mic wouldn't be identified. So I had to restart the browser again, not the whole computer this time, and it finally located the browser. I'm slow rolling the start this morning just because the Bitcoin Magazine Rumble channel is done. We're not going to be doing it there. So I'm going to let a few of those folks roll in before we get started. Good morning, friends, and happy Monday indeed, Jason. Let me see what's going on over on the Rumble, the normal Rumble channel. Looks like we're doing great. Moran says, good day, freaks. Nolan, MixQ meetups. How's he at T4 days and 13 hours? Indeed, until the halving. Build your local network with the freaks, soon to be friends. Shared incentives, indeed. Are you going to be at the Canadian... Drew Hadley asks, are you going to be at the Canadian BTC conference in Montreal? I certainly will be. I can't wait. I will definitely be there. I live in Montreal too, so I'm going to be there for sure. We got... Tomorrow's our last full day here in Barbados. We're flying to New York City on Wednesday. We're going to spend one night there. Moscow drones, yeah. We're going to spend one night there. And then we'll be in Montreal on Thursday. So no show Thursday. I'll do the show Wednesday, but not Thursday. Wednesday, we're flying in the afternoon. So there you go. Yeah, Moscow drones. We love them. Sup, all. Sup, P-Man. Hope you're doing well. Johnny Rico, good morning. John, good morning. I'm just slow rolling a little to let all of the Bitcoin Magazine Rumble channel folks catch up. If you guys can retweet my tweet from this morning, that might be helpful. I let everyone know on X with that post that we were only doing one Rumble channel today. So there you go. Hold on now. Let me get all my notes together. Make sure everything's in one place. Bon matin, Kevin. Hope you're doing well, my man. Hope you're doing well. Good morning, Bitcoin Breakup Breakfast crew. Good morning, Veterans Cannabis Advocacy Group. I hope you had a great weekend. I sure did. A lot of kid time this weekend. We had fun. My spirits were uplifted. You know, it was like a week and a bit of pretty low energy because of my dad and all that stuff. So we feel normal-ish. We're doing great. Going to be excited to get back, though. And do let me know if the mic ever drops out today, because we got an issue with the cable. That's what it was. The cable's broken. That's why it wasn't registering. I used a new cable, but it sucked. So I had to go back to the old broken one. We are all children of the universe. Indeed. All right, let's acknowledge children of the universe. That we got a sunrise. Look at that reflection on the beautiful blue sea back there. You still haven't been able to catch any horses. You would see them here. You would see a little horse come through there if you ever catch it. But I saw them a couple mornings ago. I was here for an early morning walk. And they were all swimming. The scene's changed a bit, though. When I first started coming here, it was during COVID, and there were no tourists around. So I used to see them swimming all the time. But now it's a big photo op. I didn't know that. Good day, Nolan. Good day, Habib. Hope you're doing great. All right. So we're not done finishing acknowledging this beautiful sunrise. But guess what? Bitcoin's also running, guys. We got nothing left to do except have a coffee and talk about what is new. And as you know, we like to start every one of our mornings with the fakest news we can find. It's Moscow time. Here we go. Ready? These are my new favorite stories, the squatter stories. I'm loving the squatter stories, everyone. They're just the best. New York Post writes, squatter sublets New York City apartment while owing landlord $72,000 in rent. So now it's his cash flow. You can get a debt of $72,000, but still get the cash flow from the asset. It's amazing. We love it. We're not done. Gordon Ramsay. This one's from England. So we got the squatting in New York, right? One of the great Western cities. What about London? Isn't that one of the great ones? Well, wah wah. Gordon Ramsay, helpless as squatters take over his 13 million pound pub. I wonder if they get the cash flow for the beer. That would be great, you know? That would be great. All right, this one's great. This is from the Free Press, all right? The Free Press. Anti-war activists in Chicago learned to chant death to Israel and death to America in Farsi. They're amazing anti-war people. We love them. We love them. What did I put in that sauce? Indeed. This one's great. This one's great. All right. This comes from Canada. You know it's going to be good if it comes from Canada. It has to be good if it comes from Canada. British Columbia to require hospitals have designated spaces for patients' illicit drug use, health minister says. Go take your cocaine and your crack over there. The healthy spot. This is pretty good. Okay. You know the climate change catastrophist? This one's good, right? So remember, this is the best, right? Catherine Murdoch thinks a sense of doom is thwarting climate action. A Brief History of the Future, her documentary with Ari Wallach, urges a brighter outlook. So you're gonna burn in hell unless you recycle, but you gotta be chipper about it. Come on, we can do this. Weiwu's the best. Don't we love Weiwu? I'm a deep Weiwu follower. I've been following that character forever. Love it. They used to smoke cigs in the halls of hospitals, and doctors made recommendations of which brand was better for you. Well, it turns out, you know, that this is something we're going to talk about today, but the doctors, even their textbooks are wrong, right? They get bad information. And again, I'll go back to the financial organization around this. You know that commercial banks in the United States have to have special divisions to deal with to deal with doctors and lawyers because they're so stupid. They think that because they did well on a test when they were children, that they're good at everything, that it's all just like IQ application. So because of that, they're the worst with money. I mean, they don't know what they're doing. The banks understand that and have separate people to deal with them, which is amazing, right? Apparently the rumble. Yeah, I'm here for the referendum, guys. I can't wait, P-Man. I'm in it. I'm telling you. I'm rock and rolling with the sovereignness this time for sure. We're going to have a great time. Oh, so the NPR, I don't know what she does. The CEO, yeah, NPR has a new CEO, right? And she did an amazing thing the past few days. So they had the only white male on the staff of NPR criticized them for, you know, not really being down the middle, right? You know, a little in the bag for liberals and Democrats. So what did the new CEO say? Well, she attacked him, of course, right? And here's what we know about her. This is the person who says, no. It's only racists who think we're not down the middle. Here's a few quotes from her. I mean, sure, looting is counterproductive, but it's hard to be mad about protests not prioritizing the private property of a system of oppression founded on treating people's ancestors as private property. Wah, wah. We got more. I do wish Hillary wouldn't use the language of boy and girl. It's erasing language for non-binary people, right? NPR's new CEO, everyone. She's great. We got a couple good ones on Trump from the weekend. All right, here we go. This is from MSNPC. Former President Donald Trump tells reporters that he would absolutely testify in his upcoming hush money trial. Oh, no, I'm reading the wrong one. Sorry, never mind. This is from Kamala Harris. Donald Trump is the architect of this healthcare crisis. Everything's Donald's fault. Now, I got more on Donald, though. Don't worry. Washington Post. With the U.S. on the brink of prosecuting an ex-president for the first time via Donald Trump, other cases around the world have demonstrated the merits of placing top officials on trial and the potential pitfalls. There's a lot of merits out there, guys. Phil Bump makes an appearance. Phil Bump, everyone. Analysis by Phil Bump. This week, a former president of the United States is for the first time scheduled to go on trial for criminal charges. It may end up being the only indictment Donald Trump faces that goes to trial. Wah, 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 wah. This one's good too. This comes from Jennifer Rubin, who we love. She's one of our best contributors. We got to give her a one day when we, when the whole thing's over, we got to send her a one of these block clock things, right? We got to show her Moscow time because she's been such a great contributor. Here's what she says. The U.S. is not alone in confronting a right-wing authoritarian movement that makes curtailing women's reproductive freedom central to its agenda. Abortion restrictions appeared to drive women in Poland to the polls last fall. We love it. And here's our favorite one of the day, because it bleeds into our theme, and it comes from Ursula, the EU president. The EU president, Ursula von der Leyen. This is it. Politico says von der Leyen castigates far-right AfD over Russiagate scandal. So the EU head is bringing in Russiagate like it's real, like it's a thing, right? So it's great. Schellenberger addresses that. So we're moving into our theme now. Schellenberger writes about this whole thing. He says, the president of the European Commission is not supposed to interfere in national elections. And that's what President von der Leyen is doing by spreading what appears to be disinformation about her political enemies in Germany. What's worse, it appears she has weaponized the intelligence agencies of the Czech Republic and Poland in order to do so. Neither von der Leyen nor anyone else has presented any evidence to support their conspiracy theory that Russia bribed German politicians. Every single accused person has hotly denied the accusations. And in the Politico article that we just mentioned, von der Leyen even says that her enemies are guilty whether they have taken bribes or not. That makes what von der Leyen doing a McCarthyite witch hunt. It is illegal for politicians to weaponize their national intelligence agencies and interfere in national elections. Let's nag them. It'll work. All right. There needs to be an immediate investigation into von der Leyen and the intelligence agencies of Czech Republic and Poland are doing. Not going to happen. Voice of Europe must also make a clear statement as to what is happening, where its money is from, and who it has paid. I am horrified by Putin and his violent war in Ukraine. I am no fan of AfD. But the weaponization of intelligence agencies to demonize political enemies, interfere in elections, and demand censorship of social media platforms is totalitarianism and must be denounced. So he's calling it election interference, right? And here's also what he says. Both NATO-funded and government-funded NGOs are working with government bodies to interfere in German elections. Their influence operation aims to keep Germany in line with American foreign policy objectives and undermine the European peace movement. The evidence suggests the European intelligence agencies and NATO are breaking domestic EU laws against foreign election interference. But anyway, we don't care about the who did what or all this stuff, right? What we do know from Mike Benz and others is exactly how this machine works, right? And the machine works exactly like this. It relies on stupid, uninformed, hypnotized people. So we saw this whole attack this weekend with the drones in, from Iran, and they went over to Israel, and most of them got shot down, and they gave everyone plenty of warning to see that it was coming. But truly the story underlining, and it's not so much the drone war of the physical drones flying. Our problem really is the NPCs, right? The people who are so easily hypnotized, the people who will literally be spellbound by almost anything the credentialists say or anything that comes out of the top-down structure that fiat has imposed, right? We understand that the propagation of fiat requires the intelligence services, the banks, and mainstream media to work in concert in a coordinated effort in order to hypnotize people the way they do. But the truth is, and we've all noticed this, the ability for them to hypnotize is becoming weakened and weakened every day, right? Not exactly bringing in new adherents, not exactly convincing anyone, right? We can see that. It's becoming more and more obvious ever since X became a little freer of a platform. But truthfully, I think Bitcoiners were able to survive most of the hypnotism that went through COVID. I often said that one of our main advantages coming out of COVID for Bitcoiners, and it would be felt for years, is that Bitcoiners had the least amount of adjustment. We'd predicted something like COVID, not necessarily a virus, but something like COVID coming along in order to strengthen the hypnotic effects and the hypnotic propagation powers of fiat. So we knew something like this was happening. You can go back on some of the mainstream legacy media shows I was doing back in 2019. I predicted a huge Federal Reserve print on Squawk Box with Andrew Ross Sorkin and all these other mainstream media or legacy media propagators. So when I was there, I didn't know anything about a virus, but I was looking at the reverse repo markets, getting laughed at by the Joe Weisenthals and all these people. Oh, it's technical. You Bitcoiners don't understand anything. I knew journalism was dead then, because by 2020, had journalism been a real thing, CoinDesk, who I was speaking on behalf of at the time and who I worked for at the time and was generally widely associated with at the time, we were the only financial outlet covering the reverse repo market. We were the only one making a prediction that the US balance sheet would go off a cliff within months, and had to, right? So it was only us. Had there been any real objective journalism back then, CoinDesk would have won every single award going. They won every award in the end with the SBF story and the FTX thing. So they won a bunch of awards, but not quite the same scale of story that it should have been, right? We were ahead of this. And so to go back to the original point, Bitcoiners being people who had predicted something like that happening, didn't need to adjust as much. That's why I predicted that Bitcoiners would be the first people to meet in public around the world. And indeed they were. At Bitcoin 2021 in Miami, Bitcoiners were the first people to meet globally in numbers, without masks, without any vaccine mandate stuff. And we just met, and it was a historic thing. And so that was the result of Bitcoiners not having to adjust their worldview very much through COVID, right? Now, things appear worse than they were, even from my point of view as a Bitcoiner, right? I didn't think things were this decrepit in 2019. So the depths to which the fiat system can fall and the disrespect we all have for it have actually increased. I didn't think it possible, but it happened, right? It's even shittier than we thought. Indeed, you get people like this. This is Andrew Ross Sorkin, the very guy that I was talking about, right? The very guy that I was expressing in 2019 that we would have this problem, that we would go off a cliff. Kind of, he was laughing at us. Oh, you guys are cute, you Bitcoiners, you're so cute. You don't even understand the technical ramifications of the reverse repo market. This is what this guy's saying this weekend. All right, this is what he's saying this weekend. This is from a credentialist. New York Times. I think he teaches at one of the universities in New York, or he's given courses, written a bunch of books. This is what he says: trying to understand Bitcoin's price movements this weekend. If it is, as Bitcoin bulls believe, a store of value during a war, wouldn't it be considered a safe haven? And if it is a huge a hedge against inflation, wouldn't buyers rush to it out of fear that countries will spend more on conflict? What explains its fall? I'm genuinely curious to hear various perspectives. Now, contrast that with what, let me make sure I have it. Oh, dang, I got to get it here. Let me contrast that with what we saw our friend Dylan Leclerc say this weekend, right? So Dylan comes out and says, writing in response to Andrew Ross Sorkin, not just judge whose worldview is stronger here. Andrew Ross Sorkin sitting there saying, oh, Bitcoin, what's going on? What happened this weekend? Oh, Dylan Leclerc writes, you see, a globally liquid monetary bearer asset reacted instantaneously to geopolitical developments over the weekend, while all other markets were closed for trading. I told you, this is why Bitcoin will never be adopted. And Dylan says, all right, Grandpa, it's time for bed, right? So really, this whole thing about the know-it-alls and people like von der Leyen and people like Andrew Ross Sorkin, right? I think I had another one of these stupid people. Anyway, it doesn't matter. What you've got here is not so much proof that we've got NPCs about amidst us. The proof that becomes more obvious when we see the gears of the machine and the architecture of deceit is that there are people whose express goal is to hypnotize NPCs, to make them spellbound. Now, we knew they were brainwashers all the time, right? We've always known that. But the way they operate, the way they seed narrative, the way they refuse to use their brain to understand something and act a little dumb, right? Acting dumb all the time. Oh, Andrew Ross Sorkin, he's not stupid, right? And he's not a stupid guy. And to see him sitting there acting stupid shows us exactly what he is, right? It shows us exactly what it is. And for reasons that Bitcoiners have long understood, that fiat, the incentive models, contrast with Bitcoin so well, right? The contrast is what has helped us understand this stuff. And the contrast couldn't have been more obvious this weekend when we saw this MMA guy, right? This MMA guy, everyone saw this MMA guy who won the fight on the weekend. This MMA guy comes out and wins a fight and then runs into his interview talking about Mises and all these people, and you got to learn Austrian school of economics, and and it's hilarious, right? To see him say that, learn about private property rights, learn about all this stuff, and it provides this perfect contrast, right? You get the credentialed people who are not even, it's not even so much that they're stupid. It's not even so much that they're hypnotizing NPCs. It is the manner in which they're either showing their evil, right, to hypnotize these NPCs, or they're stupid. So they're either evil or stupid. It's one of the two, right? They don't need to be, you don't need to choose between them. The results are the same. So we saw Jordan Peterson write something pretty funny about this, right? Jordan Peterson says, what a world. The satirists are Christian, the left shills for big pharma, and the deadly boxers have become profound economic philosophers. So you get Andrew Ross Sorkin on the same weekend saying, oh, what's going on with Bitcoin, right? I don't get it. And then you get a wrestler beat up in the face going on about what's really going on, about the value proposition of Bitcoin, right? We got all these people. We got the squatters. We've got all of these sludge people, all these people getting hypnotized, thinking this is okay, right? What we're really seeing here is the fiat apocalypse, right? And the fiat apocalypse is really powered by the spell weavers, the people who are hypnotizing the NPCs, and then the actual drones, right? And the drones are not the ones that flew over and all got shot down or whatever, landed a few times. It's not them. The drones are the people in our lives. It's the NPCs, right? It's the people who are so easily hypnotized, the people who are still sitting there saying, Russiagate was real. What's Bitcoin's value proposition? We have an honest government who's out to protect us. That's not what's going on here, right? The media is out to hypnotize you. That's obvious. And the people participating in the media want you hypnotized. Believe it or not, they want you hypnotized, right? Andrew Ross Sorkin, again, we don't need to determine whether he's stupid or is a hypnotizer. The effect of what he's doing hypnotizes people. Von der Leyen, or whatever her name is, same thing, right? It's the same formula. So what we're seeing more and more is this fiat apocalypse contrasted by the ascension of all these sort of normal people into things that should be obvious. A wrestler being an economic genius compared to Andrew Ross Sorkin is exactly the correct formula to deal with the world as it is today, right? Because the threat of NPCs is real, right? The real drone army, having people walk around not understanding that all of our food, for example, is completely poisoned, right? RFK talking about it this weekend, right? RFK had a pretty good quote on it, and he says, let me get it for you. This is what RFK was talking about on the Rubin Report, right? Talking about processed foods being owned by pharmaceutical giants. Shouldn't we be talking about the fact that we have 1,000 ingredients in our food that are illegal in Europe? We are just systematically poisoning this generation of kids. BlackRock owns the processed food companies that are poisoning us. And they own the pharmaceutical companies that are making $4.5 trillion a year treating the chronic disease that's been caused by BlackRock's other companies, right? So we see how this is operating. It becomes very obvious for us to see. And the more obvious it is for us to see, the easier it is for us to express it to people, the harder it is for the hypnosis to work. Right? So the feedback loop that's created all of these NPC sludge people extends into almost all fields, right? The food thing can be contrasted really easily. The food thing can be contrasted really, really easily with, something, what's his name? Bill Gates said this weekend. So Bill Gates going on about changing cows this weekend, that there's a problem with their farts again. He's doing the farts thing again with the cows, right? So Bill Gates is up there saying, we got to change cows because of farts. Who believes this shit anymore? Who, except for NPC sludge people, drones, right? So this idea that the NPC sludge people and all their hypnosis and all of their catastrophism and all of their pessimism about the world, all of that stuff, right, only works for certain people. And Bitcoiners are sort of showing the path to individual ascension, individuation, right? The Jungian concept of individuation, where we're seeing, while NPC is an archetype, a particular archetype of the fiat apocalypse, right? The drones that the fiat apocalypse has created are the only things sustaining it anymore, right? Fiat would die if it weren't for the drones. The drones are all that's keeping it alive. And the drones are becoming fewer and fewer because the spellmasters and the hypnotizers are becoming weaker and weaker, right? And you can see that. One of the big things they're trying to push this weekend on TV, again, is something that I've persuaded all of you about. It's elections, right? Only NPCs can be certain that voter ID is racist and that black people are too stupid to get ID, right? And we saw it again this weekend. We saw on, of course, MSNBC. Now, again, I only watch MSNBC for the laughs. It's for the LOLs, right? There's nothing serious there. And more you see it on X and Twitter. When you see someone, a Bitcoiner, share an MSNBC video clip and they don't add any comment, they're doing Moscow time, right? Because in general, when you see someone now share an MSNBC clip, it's not because they're like, look what I learned. It's always the same. It's look how stupid these people are. Look at how mentally retarded these people really are, right? Here's what they're trying to do this weekend. Here's the Biden official Simone Sanders talking about voting in America. This is what she says. She goes, this is insane because it is already. It is not legal to vote in America if you're not a citizen of the United States. Oh, so everyone just follows the law, I guess, right? Congress has already passed legislation for that way back before. I couldn't even go to school. What did she say here? I could even go to school. Okay. I don't know what she means by that. Back in the 90s, I think they did this, right? Michael Steele. I don't know what she's talking about. I don't know. We joke about this all the time. Now, according to Donald Trump and his insurrection buddy, the Speaker of the House, Mike Johnson, after they had their meeting. Now, apparently, House Republicans are going to pursue legislation requiring proof of citizenship to vote. The question is, who we are going to show proof to Miss Susie at the polling place? How is Miss Susie going to verify? Are we asking people to bring their papers? This is America, she says. So here's Kyle Becker writing, that was Simone Sanders' pathetic attempt to concoct a reason for not verifying voters in the United States elections. Miss Susie doesn't know how to check IDs. Next, MSNBC host Alicia Menendez played the infamous race card, which is the go-to for whenever the left wants to push a ridiculous idea. What strikes me is this is the long tail of a long-time Republican effort to make it harder to vote because they know some of those requirements, having to show a license, they disproportionately impact communities of color, and they disproportionately impact older Americans. The stupid black people and the stupid old people is what they're saying. That's what they're saying. They're saying these people are too dumb to get a driver's license. So we need to upend the credibility of our elections for the people who are too stupid to get a driver's license. That's the argument. That is what fiat is relying on. That's the end of the road for all of this stuff. And that's why in each of these instances, right, in the same way that healthcare is really nothing of the sort, in the same way that healthcare and the food business, nothing of the sort, not to nutrify, not to provide nutritious food, not to provide legitimate healthcare, to create a actual death spiral of health and requirements and needs from the pharmaceutical industry. In the same way that this piece here on elections, right, they're going to come out and say this is to fortify democracy. It has nothing to do with fortifying democracy, not even close, right? So this idea that almost all things have experienced this amount of entropy, all the propagation nodes of fiat have experienced entropy to this extent, so that their actual designs and purposes are the opposite of what they're intended to do. The news is about hypnotism. Healthcare and food are about getting you in a death spiral. And voting is about scamming democracy. Nothing of the sort, right? So more and more we're involving ourselves not in a debate with low IQ or correctness or rationality. That's not what's going on here. Nothing of the sort like that is happening, right? Politics are not an argument about right and wrong and which argument will lead to better outcomes. It's not that anymore. At the stage that we're seeing it now, with fiat dying the type of death that it's experiencing, with the type of apocalypse that's about it, the only people left over there are the NPCs and the people hypnotizing them. That's it, right? On the other end, contrasting that with the Bitcoiners, you're starting to see the Bitcoin archetypes become more and more obvious. Those things that will help fix this world, right? So my next book, my next Bitcoiner's Guide, I mentioned it a little bit on that episode when I was talking about my father. At the time, I called it the Bitcoiner's Guide to Sovereignty. I'm flipping it a bit. I'm calling it now the Bitcoiner's Guide to the Fiat Apocalypse. And part of the Fiat Apocalypse being that our shadows are, you're stuck in the shadow if you're an NPC. Basically, you don't have the ability to make the turn and embrace the process of individuation from Jungian psychology in order to have an ascension. But Bitcoiners are modeling the different archetypes that will allow you to make that turn and make that ascension. We talked a little bit about fatherhood being a big one, right? Satoshi demonstrating that sort of fatherhood aspect of the appropriate personal sacrifice required to get the network going. In his case, it was the fair launch. It was the no movement of the early coins and no pre-mine, right? We all understand what an important foundation that is for the credibility of Bitcoin, right? Again, the tension here is between credibility and convenience, just like the election systems. The same tension you'll see in crypto and blockchains versus Bitcoin. So from there, we talked a little bit about the mother archetype, right? Now, the mother archetype doesn't have to even be female. It's a big thing. I think that motherhood is heavily appreciated amongst Bitcoiners. I know I congratulate and what's the word? I compliment my wife constantly on just delicious meals, and I cook sometimes too, but I'm telling you, if you don't compliment and embrace those things that belong in this archetypical ascension, right? If you don't embrace those things, then you're missing out, let's say, right? These things have to be absolutely admired. Keeping a home that has a pleasant vibe and all of that stuff, that's a big part of it. But you'll see that men embrace that motherhood part of the archetypical expression as well. I'd say the bro health stuff in Bitcoin is a big part of it. The carnivory, all of that stuff comes from that sort of mother archetype that's there. Now, again, none of these things have to be strictly male or female, right? That is a type of spectrum, and it's not necessarily a hard-coded thing. Men display a lot of motherly archetypical behavior in the Bitcoin community when it comes to those health aspects, and when it comes to time preference and having a much healthier psychological mindset. Now, fatherhood can help that too, but this is often a motherhood thing, right? So we're getting these archetypes that are, of course, the outlaw, the hero, all of these archetypes Bitcoiners can embrace in order to find our own path out of the shadow. And Bitcoin offers several of the archetypes, right? While we're dealing with NPCs, the archetypes that we see getting you out, indeed, if you're a what do you call it? A entrepreneur in Bitcoin. Well, that has a lot to do with in some cases, if you're dealing with privacy tech, right? We could put you in the outlaw category. If you're dealing with just getting more people to use Bitcoin, that's a lot of the hero archetype, right? So we have these different archetypes, these different pathways that are being modeled for Bitcoiners, different pathways. They're not all the same, right? Just like the ultimate hero in Bitcoin is the everyman, right? We've merged hero and everyman, and the archetypical expression of that in Bitcoin is the pleb, right? Just showing up and doing your part, keeping your word. All those kinds of things are part of an archetypical psychological frame that you can use to make the turn out of shadow and ascend and realize the individuation. So that's really what Bitcoiners are doing here. This is a psychological upgrade. And that's why I'm going to use the frame of surviving the fiat apocalypse, because the fiat apocalypse really is a drone war. It's a drone war, right? We're in a drone war. Now, because we live in a simulation, we also have a drone war going on in the sky with the little robots. But it's the same situation, right? It's the same situation. Now, go back to what that wrestler said about the Ludwig von Mises and the 6 lessons of the Austrian school, right? Within those 6 lessons, you actually can get a sense of Now, the 6 lessons aren't just like 1, 2, 3. They're sort of subjects, right? Capitalism, socialism, interventionism, inflation, foreign investment, politics, and ideas. What they really are, right? The 6 lessons of Mises here. What they really are the shift in polarity that the Bitcoin archetype contrasted with the NPC archetype are based on, which is the third-party information sources, right? The untrustable third parties. Everything he's mentioning here is all about the limiting of direct bilateral relationships between humans and their government, or else humans and humans. And the P2P aspect of everything has been manipulated by the fiat propagators, who insert themselves into almost any commercial relationship, making almost all of them three-party, right? That's what socialism is really asking you to do. It's about putting people into the context of, listen to the news, they know it's right. Listen to the credentialed experts, they know it's right. Listen to the the science, they got it, they calculated, they have more knowledge than you, right? All of these archetypes that lead to NPC status, that are either NPCs themselves or are hypnotizing NPCs for their purposes to have more soldiers in the drone army. All of these things are exactly what Bitcoin contrasts against, and it's exactly what we need to fight against, right? So the simulation has given us this insane coincidence of an actual drone army and drone war, while Bitcoiners are involved in a psychological drone war with the fiat propagators. So it's a hilarious thing, right? Which is why we think that the Palmer Luckey, like, what a funny name, Lucky, that Palmer Luckey is a Bitcoiner. Because in the end, he's going to be our drone inventor, right? I mean, my farm, I could see people coming in 100 miles around me, right? I predict I'm going to have a sniper tower, and I'm going to release my drone army for anyone who comes around, right? They'll be flying around dealing with all that stuff. So it's coming. I'm bringing my drones here next year, by the way, to Barbados, because the plague of Barbados are kites that people fly with noisemakers on them. So it sounds like a weed whacker it'll last for 2 or 3 days. And the whole, if you listen to talk radio on the island or anything, which I do, everyone's freaking out about it all the time. So I'm bringing drones next year. I'm going to rip them all out of the skies, right? We're going to unleash a symphony of hell on these drones, on these kites. I'm here to do some imperialism against the drones, right? I'm not here to get along with the locals about them. I'm going to wipe them out of the sky, right? I don't give a shit. So, and most people are with me on it, right? Most people are with me. So we're going to launch our drone army. And that'll be great, right? Karina says, love that Joe Rogan was the MC of that fight. Wasn't it fun? Yeah, wasn't it fun? It was a pretty neat, the MMA thing is going great, right? Human drones, they're void of instincts. They sure are. Yeah. Well, it's always like, what do the experts say, right? So there's no more sort of asking I think Stick, Sex, and Hammer said something about this morning. He said, just in general, just trust your instincts. Like, enough. You'll know, right? You'll know. Dr. Satoshi says, opposite day every day. Veterans Cannabis says, fiat acts more like a mind virus than a store of any real value. It is a mind virus. It absolutely is that. Good morning, Max. He said, God bless indeed. Every day walking with Christ says, safe travels. No, thank you, sir. Thank you. Such a lizard, Bitcoin Deb. I think we're talking about, what's his shit? The Bill Gates guy. I like to call him Toll Booth. Bill Gates. Right? You bill someone at a gate. It's all his business models have been, right? Let me do the third party thing and enter the commercial relationship and tax everybody, right? Bill Gates a toll booth, right? It's just a toll booth business model. I wish I could hear what Steve Jobs really thought about him. It'd be hilarious. Viewing policy from another angle, under a different light. Indeed. More like health destruction. That's what it is. Yeah. Hasn't been care-centric, affordable, or healthy since they fixed it. Daniel says, I love that fiat apocalypse frame. C19 was the breaking of the first seal. Yeah, the worldwide civil unrest this year is the breaking of the second seal. Here we go. It's going to be fun. We're loving it. Mammals are all nurturers. Naturally instinctual is our destiny to come together because a bundle of sticks tied together is stronger than one stick. Yeah, that's great to say. Great way to put it, Hammersaw. Economy of household, shared incentives, and mirrored goals. Yeah. Like, I mean, you know what a feat it is for like a household that understands its economic footing and then gets healthy food in the door and all that stuff. It's the best, right? It's got to be admired and honored more than anything. It's the number one job for Bitcoiners. It's the number one job. And even understanding why it's the number one job. Here's something I took from Mark Andreessen, right? So Mark Andreessen's been talking about AI, productivity, and an abundance mindset, and how close we are to actually being able to lead lives of lower time preference and intense enjoyment rather than stress and debt and worry and all that stuff. And Electric Dreams put a pretty interesting comment on this Mark Andreessen quote and interview he was giving. He goes, what's surreal about this whole thing? It's not that our brightest minds are literally shouting from the roof, telling us the near future is abundant, and we are about to enter a phase of progress unlike any conceived by the human mind. Nope. The surreal part is, despite the analysis, the evidence, the careful projections, we continue to live in utter scarcity mode, afraid our best and brightest are just crying wolf. Reality, they said, is stranger than fiction. They were right. And indeed, I'm here to tell you that we've taken care of most of our material needs and wants in the world. It really is just about having appropriate capital allocation from here on out, and only Bitcoin can achieve that. Only Bitcoin can achieve that, right? And nothing about giving credentialed people more money and more discretion and more power is going to save us. Nothing about that is going to save us. And only drones and NPCs are the ones still hypnotized by that idea. Exactly what we were talking about here with the von Mises and the lack of third parties. Satoshi's ideas extend to not just a P2P electronic cash network. It's everything. It's literally everything that comes from that. It's P2P all around. So that's what we're headed for, guys. And it's fun, right? We enjoy it. We're having a great time. Oh, yeah. And here's another one. This will be fun. This will be a really good drama today. The FISA vote happens again today to see if Americans can be spied on by their government, or if the government can do warrantless spying on Americans. Last time it failed by one vote when the Speaker of the House on Thursday, I guess, voted to allow for warrantless spying on Americans. But I guess that Rep. Anna Paulina Luna, she's great. I guess she did some trickery the other day that forced another vote on it this week. And I guess there was some Republican who wasn't there who is going to vote with them. And if he shows up, it'll go the way, I guess, that a lot of people want, which is the government will need a warrant to spy on Americans. We'll see what happens. It doesn't matter either way. Just having this in the news. Imagine if they do it twice to say that, no. The government doesn't need a warrant to spy on you. You know how good that is for Bitcoiners and for us to actually perceive who the enemy is and what they're up to. It's actually a good thing. Either way, this is a good thing, right? So we love it. We love it. Veteran says, thanks for posting the guide to dealing with NPC. Got a lot of useful information and advice from it. Very sharp insights. Thank you, Veterans Cannabis. I appreciate it. Government officials abuse the word safe. All right, let's see what the folks over on Rumble are saying. Connectel says, great chat with Walker. Thanks, man. We love Walker. He's great. Will miss the beautiful beach view. C. Berger, I am going to finally figure out the other views for the other studios. I got the Montreal studio. I have I'm way up in a condo skyscraper. So, and I have a great view. Most of the view is towards the south, but I do have a view of the Montreal skyscrapers because I'm in them. So we'll see what I come up with. And then originally the idea of the show outdoors was for the view over in the Vermont studio. So if I can figure out how to do that one, it's going to be great. What I might end up doing is put a TV screen behind me when I get home, and I can put a view so it will always be beautiful, and it'll go from view to a few things I want to refer to. Now, I tried, if you remember, people who've been around since last autumn, I tried with the computer screen. It didn't work for Moscow time. I couldn't get the timing right. I sort of dropped it. I'm going to try that again, but not the way I did it last time. I don't think I can do it with Moscow time, but I can do some of the other clips and put them in, and it should be good. We'll see. So we're going to be putting some time into the studio and into the production and what's going on. Yeah. But here, we're here for the sunshine, guys, right? We love the sunshine. So we should have some good stuff. Now, again, in hello from airplane on the way home from Bedford. How would that go, Edgar? It looks like it was a great time. I actually was very jealous of you all. And P-Man, you don't understand what's going on, P-Man, if that's what you're saying. Have you been to the other North American cities? You know what I brag about Montreal? It's the only livable North American city left. It's the best there is. There's nothing else. Have you seen the homeless problem in Toronto? It's unreal. It's unreal. It's nothing like Montreal. Nothing like Montreal. I wouldn't live in any other city in North America anymore. For now, anyway. For now. I'm sure there's other places and all that, but not interested. Boat engine going. And it's far fewer homeless people than most places, from what I can tell, and still quite pretty, and it's doing well. I'd watch if you're broadcasting from a cardboard lightning vent. That means a lot. I appreciate that. But I think it'll be a good. It might not be day one. The internet is not hooked up in Montreal, so it might take me a day or two. I know I'm doing an episode tomorrow, Wednesday, no episode Thursday because I'm in New York City for the morning, or maybe I'll do a short one. We'll see. I have a very good view of Manhattan skyline Wednesday night. And so maybe I'll do one from there. And then Friday, I'm not sure if the internet will be set up yet. So there might not be one Friday, but I should have the internet strong by Monday. So we should be back, no problem. And then it'll take me a little bit to get the studio up and running. And we're going to miss Ray Guy, not so much Power Washer Guy. Yeah, we'll be back here next year, guys. This is where I live in the winters, and I come here from the end of December, and I stay till now. I think I might go home a little earlier now. I think the past 2 weeks I've been, it's not just my dad dying. I think most of us, once the weather starts getting nicer and not minus a million degrees up north and dangerous, I like the spring ski. I like the end of winter time, the spring skiing. So we might start coming back at the end of March instead of end of April. But we'll see. We'll see. The reason we do it now is because this is Easter break, and the kids in Barbados get 3 weeks off Easter. And my kids always go to these different camps, like they did tennis camp, and because a lot of kids are around and all their friends who go to school. They have a lot of homeschool friends here. There is a pretty good homeschool crowd in Barbados, but all the kids, the friends they have that go to school are all in these camps for the week and are able to, it's just a big party for the kids. So that's kind of why we stay till now. Their vacation ends this week, so that's what I timed it for. It was basically the end of Bajan, it's called. I don't know if you guys know that, but Barbados people are called Bajans, and so it's the end of Bajan holiday, and time for us to go. But next year we might just skip it. I don't know. We'll see. The kids like it. I remember the boat last year. I love all the different sets. Yeah, we did the boat. Yeah, that one didn't work so well though. That's my meaning, Daniel. I start to really, like I said, late March, and I start to see that it's warm in the background. I start to want that feeling of weather. I can't get it anywhere here. It's just always hot. And it got hot early here. Usually I don't feel 90 degrees here ever. Like it stays in the 80s. If you're into Celsius, it's never above 30, 29, 28, but it's been 30, 31 for like a month now. And that's too much for me. That's too much. The COVID boat. Yeah, we got COVID on that boat. Don't bring up the boat. We explained the meaning of Easter to our 8-year-old daughter. She asked if Jesus is coming back to life as the Easter bunny. Love it. So yeah, Daniel, my favorite thing is spring in New England. There's nothing like it, and I feel like I'm missing some of it. It did get warm up there quick, and I think it snowed on Whiteface and Jay at the top anyway over the weekend. Probably Mansfield too. So I missed a couple of in the end, I really should have been around for this. I was miserable missing the eclipse. You got buds on the trees. Wow. I don't think we'll have those in Quebec when I get back. That's a late April thing. Normally, my lake is still frozen right now, where I live and where I grew up, Brome Lake. Normally, Brome Lake is still frozen right now. Um, I fell in when it was frozen, like once off the. There was a rock. It was a warm day, and it was actually one of the. The day I mentioned on the broadcast with my father, where I just like quit work for the day because it was so nice. That was like a late April day, and that's the one where my dad said, "Good for you, quit work on a nice day and take it off. Right? You don't need to work for other people on beautiful weather days." And what I did, the first place I went was the lake because it was really warm, but there was still ice inside in the middle. You could see it floating around. And I stepped on a rock just to let the water touch my bare feet. And I'd been on this rock a million times in my life. We used to always walk over, down this rock to dive into the lake. It was like a secret camping spot on my lake that teenagers, did drugs and hung out at. And so I went on the rock, but because no one had been walking on it, it was filled with a slime. And I started slipping, like slipping right into the freezing water. And there was nothing I could really do because if I would fall, I was in the water and it was rocky and dangerous. So in order to just figure it out, I had to dive in and not hurt myself. So I had to dive into the freezing ice water. So I've swam in that icy water before. We had a couple good dumps in late March. Yeah, I saw the big one you guys had on the weekend my father died. My parents got snowed in, and JP got like 2 feet. Got 2 feet or something. Yeah, it's not so bad. I once also swam in alpine in the Alps, in the French Alps. I went to school in the Alps for college for a year, and we were doing this game where we'd hiked a mountain or something. Me, a German, all these Alpine Germans and Austrians and French people, and we spent a lot of time outdoors, doing fun stuff when I lived there. And we raced down the mountain on some trail, and the prize was you can't be made fun of for your nationality if you win this running race. And I won, right? And the race was to this lake, and the lake was frozen. So the minute we get there, and I'm like, okay, they can't make fun of me anymore. But then the German guy, the Austrian guy, jumped in the water and started making fun of me immediately for being a Canadian and being afraid of cold water. So you win the race, and as a joke, and everyone starts picking on me as the only guy who didn't want to go into the cold water. As a Canadian, they're like, "Oh, your ancestors will be so embarrassed, and you got to go in there." So I had to just jump in the cold water. So I've swam in a few of these cold ones. Don't love it. It's a wonderful scene played out in my mind. Just falling into the water. Had to dive. Had to do it. All right, team. Let me see what Rumble folks are saying, and then I'm done for the day. Great background noise, worth the occasional interruption noise. Thanks. What Barbados equivalent would you consider if Asia was on your... Well, Connector, I lived in Asia for many years, so I'm your Asian guide. I lived in Japan for a long time. I lived in South Korea for a long time. So I ripped around Asia like a maniac, and basically know all the places. I mean, I love it. I just don't like being on the Asian time right now. I prefer to be on North American time. But I'm a Japanophile through and through, a Koreaphile through and through. I mean, if things go really crazy, I would move to Japan. But if you wanted like an islandy situation, I don't know. I hear a lot of those Indonesian ones aren't bad. I haven't been to Indonesia. Thailand seems a little sketch these days. Malaysia is really nice if you don't like too much alcohol, which is fine with me. One of the neat places that I stayed for a while, if you ever want this experience, is go look at the islands off of Hong Kong. So when I lived in New York City the first time, when I first moved to New York City, I lived out on Rockaway Beach, which is the Atlantic coast, and I would take a boat in to Manhattan, a ferry boat, right? So no traffic. It was great. They had a coffee shop. On the way home, they had a bar with beer. It was just the best, right? I was just slinging Bitcoin the whole time, getting all Wall Street people into Bitcoin. It was the summer of 2017. And I had the idea because I was in Hong Kong and I had enough. I was in Hong Kong. I was in Asia that year it was early Bitcoin stuff, 2016. And I was in Asia for like over a month, and Japan, Singapore a few times, Malaysia, Shanghai, a couple of places. So I ended up spending about 2 weeks in Hong Kong. And I just didn't want to, the two-stroke engines, the Asian city chaos. I just wasn't in the mood because it was still September and hot. It's still summer over there in September, big time summer. And so what I ended up doing was I stayed on one of the islands way out in Hong Kong Bay, and I boated into Hong Kong. That's where I got the idea for New York. And those islands are amazing. Like there was the one I stayed on has no cars. And if you let your mind go there, an interesting thing a feeling that I had, or a thought that I had when I was on the island, was that had there not been a cultural revolution, had there not been a Chinese Maoist takeover of China, that was all that's left. These little islands are all that was left of old China, because there was never one-child policy. They just lived in these huge extended families, and everyone was on bicycles. It was the most amazing place. And they got great beaches. Don't go off the netted-in beaches there. It's filled with sharks. It's just the most dangerous water. You get these beaches that look like the Mediterranean. The island I stayed in was Chung Chau. So look up Chung Chau out in the bay. It's only like a half an hour ride into Hong Kong. It's cheap. And quality of life is really high. And they had a restaurant, for example, which you'll never find anywhere else. It's an amazing Chinese thing where it's the kitchen keeps no food. There's no food in the restaurant at all. She has nothing. She has spices, and that's about it, the chef, right? But she has a kitchen. She has all the pots and pans you need, wok, everything. And what happens is her thing is right next to a fish market and a little outdoor market. So what you do is you go buy all the stuff you want, bring it to the restaurant, and she prepares a meal for you. And she charges like $10 to cook the meal for you, right? And then you give like the waitress $5 tip, and that's it. Like the whole bill is $15 or something at the restaurant. And you get the food at the cost of the grocery store next door. So you buy crab, you buy everything, and you just bring it to her. And we ate. That's how we ate, right? They had a million restaurants. You don't have to eat like that. You can eat all kinds of delicious stuff. But we really got into this type of eating. Apparently it was a thing that was really popular in the old days in Hong Kong, because that way you don't have to rely on them to refrigerate and keep things cold. That's why they love it, right? They don't need any inventory, and it's much easier to run the restaurant that way and just concentrate on cooking. It's amazing. Like, so I would look into that island, honestly, because you get a city so close. Now, again, I don't know much. Like, I've only ever kind of vacationed in Thailand. It sounds awesome for living, I think, but I think there's a little bit of tension, let's call it. So I wouldn't necessarily go there, but I might not know what I'm talking about, right? But again, I love Korea. I love Japan. You don't get the full good weather in Japan like this all year round. Oh, I bet you Taiwan's not bad. It's the one place I haven't been. Oh, no, never mind. Cancel all of that I'm saying about where to go. Everyone tells me that, and I haven't been, but the Philippine Islands are the actual best place to go and just live a great life. But I haven't been to Philippines. I haven't been to Taiwan or Philippines. I've only been in the other stuff, right? Many times to Japan, many times to Korea. That's really my scene up there. I live there, and I know every town, basically. I mean, I've spent, in my life, I don't know, I've probably been to Japan well over 10 times. If I counted, it's over 10. And I usually stay for like a month, and I've stayed as much as a half a year. So I love it there. Isn't John Vallis over there? I don't know. He was just in, wasn't he just in Bedford with everyone? I'm not sure. I thought I saw him in some of the pictures. Canadian Explorer. Yeah, well, Canada's a shithole. So if you want to go anywhere, if you want to like have good weather, you got to leave Canada, right? Investigating gastronomy beyond poutine. Oh yeah, of course. Poutine here is spelled, so a funny little thing, in case you didn't know, this is a funny little French lesson. The Canadian escapist, yeah, kind of. Canada is Montreal, for example, my city. Once you graduate from school, it's like a service economy. It's like a consumption economy. So there's not really much to do for young people. But I've never left my home area. Like I always come back, and I'm not far. And now I basically live there again. But I can't abide by the weather. The winters are too dangerous, so I got to split for that. And so yeah. So here's a funny thing, though. We're writing about the. So what Bitcoin Graffiti is saying here, investigating gastronomy beyond. He means poutine. So poutine would be spelled Poutine. Now, yeah, there you go. This is how it's spelled, right? So here's the funny thing. If you spell Putin in French, it means whore, right? This way of writing poutine means slut, whore. Woman you'd pay for sex, right? A putain. So in France, they have to respell Putin, Vladimir Putin's name, as Poutine. In French, he's Vladimir Putin. That's funny, you know. So, and that in France, they don't know what a poutine is, which is French fries, gravy, and cheese curds. Raw, delicious, amazing, squishy cheese curds. They're the best things. And you can't get them anywhere else but Quebec. Everywhere, even the Vermont ones. Sorry, Daniel, scams. They don't taste anything like poutine cheese. They do poutine in Vermont. They do poutine around Canada. I love Canada stealing poutine from Quebec. That's going to be enough to separate, by the way, that it's becoming like a Canadian thing. And it's disgusting anywhere else in Canada. They don't know. Poutine should be made with chicken gravy. If you go to Toronto, it's all beef gravy. It's dark beef gravy, mushroom gravy, disgusting things. Not the bright turkey or poultry gravy, right? He's the Lord of Bitcoin there. Sometimes if I hit it wrong, it asks me to cancel or block the speakers. He's the Lord of gravy and chips. He is, yeah. We love it. All right, team. That's all I got for today. I hope you all have a great day. I'll see y'all tomorrow. And should be lots to talk about. We'll see. There's never a lack of stuff coming out of our fiat shithole apocalypse, right? We love it. To the fiat apocalypse, everyone. We love